Welcome back to United TV, another Manchester United news stream, and a couple of journalists today. Obviously, Man United don't have Matheus Fernandes, he's a Spurs player. Obviously, we don't have Tonali, he's a Spurs player now. Anderson is a Man City player. So, our short list is actually going to start becoming short, so unironically. So, we're going to be talking about some of the players on Manchester United's new short list. Nemeka is a bit of a new addition. I don't think that Man United are really going to be going for him, but we can look at the stories as well. There is also a story which I don't know whether these are considered backup options or whether some of these players would be initially top targets. I think with Manchester United, I will say this regarding Tchouaméni, it seems incredibly unlikely. And there's lots of reasons why Man United signing Tchouaméni seems unrealistic. And we can go through those this during the stream as well. Also, Wharton has been talked about, probably not as much recently. I think Man United is still slightly linked with him. Alex Scott seems to be maybe the new exciting target in terms of people on YouTube talking about Alex Scott, but Man United have been linked to him for quite a while as well. You probably look at BALEBA and wonder why he's still on the list, but Man United, again, there's a story maybe about a couple of minutes ago as well, before I started the live, saying that Man United is still looking at BALEBA as well. So that might be one that has a bit more to run as well. So BALEBA at the moment, I don't think he's linked to anybody else, but Man United have been still pushing out the information that they're still interested in him. I'll just quickly share what I saw about 10 minutes ago as well. And this is Man United still interested in BALEBA, and Brighton's valuation is obviously still going to be quite high, but let's be realistic here. All the players we're talking about at the moment are all going to cost a lot of money. So I don't think United are going to be able to get a significantly cheaper deal for any of these players we're talking about. All you could see is that maybe overall the quality of the football players available is going to go down as the transfer window progresses, but I don't think the cost is going to come down. So I can't really see the logic in waiting too much, and I can't really see the logic in trying to get the best deal because you're probably not going to get a much better deal. That's the problem we've got. So again, if you want to vote in the chat, please do. And again, I was just going to say, what do you think is the most likely one as well? Let me just quickly cover this one. A big up to you, Yoli. Well, also welcome Gaz, Coyote, Berber, Stephanie, all the legendary mods are in the chat. So good up to you, a big up to you guys. So just to quickly cover Real Madrid situation, is Real Madrid enjoy quite a favourable tax status in terms of how much money the players have to pay on their salary. So when you see Tchouaméni taking home or getting about £250,000 a week at Real Madrid, just bear this in mind that to get the same take home salary in England, Manchester United would probably be having to pay Tchouaméni about 500k a week. So for Tchouaméni to get the same amount of money, do you remember when we talked about Marcus Rashford? And Marcus Rashford wouldn't have to be paid as much money by Barcelona to take home the same salary as Man United, which made him a little bit cheaper for Spanish teams. But Real Madrid do have a different sort of tax status. It's probably a bit dodgy, but Real Madrid, the players that play for Real Madrid don't pay as much tax. It is a bit of a way of Real Madrid getting top quality players into their club. So you can look into that and research that if you want to, but people have been telling me that as well. But in terms of this one, Man United to sign Tchouaméni, they'd have to spend a huge amount on his salary. He's not going to be a cheap player. He probably would be the most expensive player to move this window into if you consider his salary plus his transfer fee. So also, he doesn't want to leave Real Madrid. I don't think that Mourinho wants him to go either. So Real Madrid wants to give him a new contract. So for me, that's the most unlikely situation. I know for a lot of people, it's probably going to be it's probably the best player on this list, but you're not going to get the best player at a sensible price, are you? That we've already seen Elliot Anderson go for what 150 million. We're seeing Tonali go for like close to 100. I think with add-ons, it might actually be 100. And we're seeing Matheus Fernandes go for 85 million. So we're not going to see too many go for cheaper deals, are we? That it just doesn't seem to make any sense. So I know people love talking about too many. It's just ridiculous. Um, Andy says Camavinga to City blocks us getting too many. Is Camavinga to City? Is this a story? I've not. Is this a recent story? But yeah. No. So let me go through some of the comments as well. So still feel that Hackney signing could live to regret not doing that. I think Hackney signing was going to be, let's be realistic here, Hackney signing was going to be good value, wasn't it? So really crazy. Danny B says all roads lead to Belieber. Do you know what it's there's a phrase, isn't there? I think it might be a phrase from I think it's Sherlock Holmes where it says once you eliminate the impossible or whatever's left, no matter how improbable, is going to be the truth. And I think when we're seeing the transfer window, we've got five names on the screen there. If too many signs a new contract, that's him gone. I think Nameka's unrealistic. Wharton's going to be about £100 million. I don't know how much money Alex Scott is going to be. How much money? Just as a question as well. How much money do you think Believer would go for? Like we've seen Alex Scott be valued at £80 million by Bournemouth recently. We've already seen that Mathis Flanders go for 85 and get £250,000 a week. If you're Brighton and Bournemouth, the fact that Mathis Flanders, 21 years old, had a decent season, but you look at it and say, how much money are these players going to go for? The only thing that's maybe helps very, very slightly is that Belieber did not have the best season. So that's the only thing I can say. Belieber didn't have the best season. But Man United remain in the queue, don't they? And we're the only people there. We're outside the Belieber shop. No one else is there. Then there could be a deal to be negotiated. It seems strange that if Man United did actually want Belieber, it seems strange that we haven't got the deal done before now. That it's still a lot of people do think that Belieber is Man United's main target, but it's just not being highly publicised by journalists. And if that is the case, we could have just made an offer because I just get the feeling that Brighton are ready to sell. And if again, this is like partly on Man United, but partly on Brighton. Brighton are going to want quite a big price. The concern I've got is not how much Brighton want for Belieber, but Brighton will have to replace Belieber with a different player or players. And do you remember when Man United were trying to buy Mbeumo, the players that Brentford wanted to buy started going up in price. So Man United, if we're going to buy Belieber, then Brighton are obviously going to get a nice profit. Brighton will reinvest that money and look to buy a couple of players to replace Belieber. The thing is, over the transfer window and over the next few weeks and months, Belieber's replacements will just cost more money. Every single player you see on the market, they're probably going to cost more in a few weeks' time. As these options diminish, they will push up the value. It is like a basic supply and demand. As midfielders get bought and less become available, the prices will go up. Also, if Brighton can do some deals quite early, then maybe we can get a good deal. Because for me, if Man United buy Belieber for £70 million and Brighton can buy a couple of players for £50 million to replace him, if those Brighton replacement players end up costing 60 to 70, then they're going to want more money for Belieber. It's just as simple as that. So I think if United can get a deal done for Belieber, again, I'm not saying that I think Belieber should be prioritised. I'm just saying if Man United are going to do a deal for Belieber, or it's their intention to do a deal for Belieber, it doesn't make any sense to wait. Like these players will not be getting any cheaper. And I'd hate to see the same as last season, where it was pretty much last week of the season, last week of the window, we tried to do a deal for Belieber, but there was no chance of doing it then. Danny B says, Camera to Brighton, £40 million. Is that a done deal, or is that something that's going to happen? I do get the feeling that there may be a bit more likelihood of Belieber to Man United than people think. We're just going to have to see if that happens. But there is like rumour that Brighton tend to, if you look at some of the deals they've done recently, Brighton are looking at the French league as well, trying to get some players in. So I'm not surprised if that deal is something that happens. I would not be surprised at all. So please just keep posting comments. I'll try and give everyone's comment a read. It's just we're trying to make it make sense a little bit. Gaz says Edison, Mainu, Belieber, Sanderberg. I'm guessing from the emojis that's not going to be the Galactico signings you were hoping for, and maybe when Jim Radcliffe puts out a statement saying we're going to get some marquee signings, I don't think Sanderberg was on the consideration for marquee signing. That's not to say Sanderberg doesn't have his merits. There's nothing wrong with Sanderberg, but he's not quite in the same category as Tchouaméni. Let's put it that way. But Belieber's the one he's probably the only player I've seen that's not significantly linked to other teams. And are Man United only signing players that nobody else wants? That Baleba definitely wants Man United. So it kind of seems to be that for me, the criteria should be which are the best players on the market, not which players only want Man United. I know that's a factor for some people, but Roy Keane was happy to go to Blackburn. We've seen a lots of other players happy to go to other clubs. You just have to make a better offer, or you have to convince them to join you. That the days of Man United, like we're not in the situation we were 20 years ago, where we were regularly winning the league. We now got to fight with other teams to get these players in, and that's why I think Belieber I would probably say might be the most likely because of the lack of competition, and there doesn't seem to be any other clubs seriously at the table at the moment. Sanderberg is an interesting one. I think he's towards the top end of like Ineos's kind of like how much they're prepared to pay. Daz is saying we need to get rid of players. The problem is, Daz, is that I think the most obvious players to sell, like Agate was one of them. Agate we can't sell now. Mason Mount, it's tough to see a lot of money coming in from Mason Mount. So we're kind of like with Xerxes, aren't we? I think Anana's gone out on loan. The Rashford situation is a bit unclear. So there's not lots of players we can sell, is there? It's just pretty annoying. And Yoli says Spurs wages are most likely increased by 1 million per week. Now, Spurs' wage bill was very low, though. So to be honest, like they had the capacity to increase. Like Man United's wage bill will be going down 700k a week, won't it, with Casemiro and Sancho off the books. So that United could like we got the capacity to spend a decent amount on 3 or 4 salaries. But no, Spurs wages will have gone up a lot, but they have got say 6 new players now. So I know they had like Van Hecker, they got Fernandez, they got Senesi as well, haven't they? Who I think no Senesi just wanted a big salary, and they've got Tonali as well, who's going to be getting a decent salary. So no, I think this one though, to be fair, I know a lot of people criticise Spurs. This is probably going to be quite a good transfer window for Spurs. They got, I think, Tonali and Matheus Fernandes certainly increased the quality in their midfield, and people aren't keen on Tonali, but we've got to admit, like Tonali definitely improved Spurs. I think Matheus Fernandes definitely improved Spurs and is a good investment for the future. Van Hecker, Senesi, and I can't remember who else they've signed as well, but these signings definitely improved Spurs, and Spurs have got these deals done, ready for pre-season. You can get that they're going to hit the ground running. I'm not saying that United should definitely have gone for those players, but I think Spurs have identified the targets and got them quickly. So I think if United could have done the same, I think we'd be having a much more positive conversation. If United could have wrapped up 4 deals at this stage, then we'd be in a very different situation. I don't mind Sunderberg, but I think it doesn't feel like we're going to be like we finished third last season. I don't think Sanderberg moves you from third to like first or second. So yeah, I would say when you see Ornstein saying that Man United are going to be the busiest club in the market, then where it's going to be a hell of an August. I think is what what we're expecting. If that's true. I think at the moment maybe Ornstein needs to like just post a bit less frequently because some of the stuff he's been saying recently is pretty much 100% guesswork. And to be honest, it's going to make him lose credibility, I think, if he carries on. Options on the table as well says Sangari 55, Angela Stiller 50, Agume 25. So I say tune in next week when we add £5 million to each price tag on that list as well as a few options go. Now we'll have to see actually. Given this, like people have got decent memories, I'm sure. Angela Stiller, 50 million is quite easy to remember. Agume, half of that. Let's see if there's any developments on that and see how they do. Because for me, I was going to say I'm not going to be like Mystic Meg, but I think let's fast forward to the middle of July where Sangari's 65 million, Angela Stiller's 60 million, Agume's 40, and Man United are priced out of Baleba and Alex Scott, and then we can kind of I'll get the what's the word? I'll get the panic thumbnail ready. But no, I'm actually in quite a good mood today. I think there's a lot of things a lot of stuff to play out. I'm just going to be relaxed and just see what happens. I mean, it's very difficult trying to predict things and say we only sign players that want us. What kind of ambition is this? I don't know. It feels a bit like be it to you, Rob. Rob always United, back with United. So let me catch up with the chat and say, great to see you back, Rob, with your proper account, proper name. That those links to Spurs were, I don't know, a bit. It must have annoyed you as well. People thinking you jumped ship to Spurs. I mean, to be honest, it was probably just me joking. Um, so um, Bilal says, "Cheer up, guys! We got rid of Sancho exactly." And that's the last I'm going to mention of Sancho. We need like some sort of code word to use instead of Sancho because it's a bit triggering to keep mentioning him. One of the worst signings in our history. And we got rid of Steve Holland as our assistant manager, it seems as well. So now there's room to get more people in terms of like some of the people we're looking at. And I think maybe an assistant coach to help. Dan says United will panic by so no panic. Yesterday I said I was like a bit angry. I think today I'm kind of what's the word? I'm a bit more relaxed. I think I was a bit annoyed with the situation that was going on at the club. So I'm going to relax a little bit and see what happens. But I think also it's very difficult for trying to know if you're trying to find out information and you want to know exactly what's going to happen. There probably a lot of YouTube channels might have a title that says the truth or something else explained. Let's be honest, like they're guessing as much as Ornstein and Fabrizio is. But Daz says United will panic by now. Kind of hope they don't, and I'm hoping that the lack of information is more an indication that Manchester United are being a little bit more careful with information flow, and they're not leaking too much information. We know a lot of stuff that came out with Matheus Fernandes was pretty much coming out from Mendes, and to be fair, in the end, Mendes got what he wanted. Matheus Fernandes, he might have got what he wanted. We'll have to see how that works out. And Danny B says Michael Carrick being set to be sacked by Christmas. I think that okay, a lot of Man United fans have different views on the manager and head coach, whatever you want to call him. I think most people will take that, or this is my view. I think Michael Carrick, I hope he's successful. If Nagelsmann had been in, or Areola had been in, or any other head coach should be in, I start the season. I'd be hoping they're successful, back them. I think if Manchester United don't back Michael Carrick in the summer, it's going to make it extremely difficult. And I think also, voice went I'm not getting emotional, but no, I think if Michael Carrick doesn't get backed, we're expecting the team to struggle the same way that if Nagelsmann was appointed, or Areola was appointed, or even Luis Enrique was appointed, we'd still want him to be backed. And I think this might be one where I don't think Man United fans are going to turn on Michael Carrick, depending on how things go. And I don't think Man United fans should turn on Carrick. Obviously, you can make up your own minds. But if Man United don't really back the head coach they've got, then with all the extra Champions League matches and the kind of pressure that puts on the squad, if the squad is like in a similar sort of situation to last year, I think the pressure and the criticism should be on Ineos, Manchester United, and the transfer situation rather than the head coach, unless we see tactical ineptitude. But I'm thinking we're more likely to see players played out of position, first 11s where we don't have a left back, or we don't have backup striker, or we don't have enough options. So I'm a bit concerned that when I read that Man United are going to address the defence next year, that just seems like stupid. Like, you need to address what needs addressing when it needs addressing. Man United are not. So we shouldn't be run like a mid-table, lowly like club. We've got the money there. We should be looking to address as many issues as possible. If you don't address the issues now, all they do is they cost you money when you drop down the league. It just gets more expensive to fix it. Look at Spurs. Spurs have had two pretty poor seasons. They're desperate to get back into the Champions League, and they're going to have to spend crazy money. Man United did nowhere near as badly as Spurs last season, so we don't need to do as many deals as Spurs. We don't have as many issues in our first 11 or our squad, but it seems that we're not willing to actually spend what's taking what it's required to actually get back up there. So it is a bit frustrating. So let's go. This one says United want cheap deals and low wages. The thing is, cheap deals, low wages. That's exactly what Spurs were doing until this window, and that got them two relegation fights. So cheap deals, low wages. Spurs had one of the lowest wage bills in the Premier League in relation to their turnover. They might have been the lowest. They were one of the in terms of like if you're looking at a business, they were very well run in terms of how the financial situation was with the low wage bill, nice profitable club, lots of revenue coming in, results on the pitch absolutely pathetic. And Man United, like we can reduce our wage bill. Reducing our wage bill does not mean we're a better football team. Okay, it means that we've got the capacity to spend. We have actually have the capacity now to offer some bigger contracts. But for some reason, the club seemed reluctant to do what Man United did for 30 years and was very successful. Manchester United's wage bill was always pretty high. And at the moment, the teams with the highest wage bill are the teams winning the Premier League. So having a low wage bill is going to cost you money in the long run because if you miss out on Champions League, it's just a false economy, and I don't understand. I'm not saying Man United should spend like £400,000 or £500,000 on salaries. What I'm saying is the capacity to get someone like Alex Scott or Baleba or Wharton. There is a capacity to get these players in. Bawadi, Sangari, you can get these players in. Like, why haven't we done these deals a bit quicker? It would make a lot more sense if we could get those players in for pre-season. And I'm not saying we can't still do that. We still got time to get these players in. It's just why are we waiting so long? It doesn't like Spurs have signed 6 players, and Man United are literally trying to close. Like we haven't done the second medical for Edison yet, I don't think, and we've already seen that Tonali's going to have his medical today. I think Matheus Fernandez. I'm not sure if he's already had his medical, but we're seeing like things move incredibly quickly, don't they? So it is like a bit of contention for me that I'm just getting a bit annoyed by it. And so that's the main reason why we can never approach sort of remove managers. Enrique would never work with this board. Conte would actually call them out by now. Um, yeah, I think that's probably the issue, isn't it? And the Amazon documentary is going to be probably I don't know what to say about that one. Berber says we need 4 midfielders for us to replace Casemiro and Nagati and add depth for Europe and say this is sabotage. So at the moment, how many midfielders do you think we need? Like we've got one Edison. We already had Mainu. I'm not including academy options. So at least 2 more. I think 2 more seems about right. I think if we got 2 more, I would be okay with that one. But at the moment, I'm starting to think, you know, like United going to be. I'm not saying panic buy, but if Man United left it to the last couple of weeks and then said, right, we're going to get Sanderberg or we're going to get Tyler Adams, they're both just going to cost more money, aren't they? Because we've left it so late. I would just hate to see Man United spend like £60 million on a player that should be definitely costing 40 because we left it too long. And the Belieber one, I don't know if we actually want to buy Belieber, let's just get it done. Um, Big D, welcome to chat. It says Ineos doing what Arsenal did when they got their stadium, saving all their cash for their business project. The thing is, if Man United are going to going to build their stadium, then being in the Champions League every single year, because the stadium's not going to be started for a couple of years, is it? I think with this one, that with the stadium, Manchester United, I'm just seeing like massive sponsorship deals to get that paid for. Look what City did. You can get like 100 million a year sponsorship on that stadium that would pay for it. So why not do that? Why not keep the money in the team and just get some short-term sponsorship to cover the stadium build? It just seems a bit short-term because United it's going to cost a lot more if we like just have a nice shiny new stadium and we're in a relegation fight like Spurs. How is that going to help us? Because I'm sure they're going to think they can hype the price of tickets up. And Danny B says, way it stands, yeah, I don't know. I mean, Spurs were dreadful last season. I think the worrying thing is, I think Spurs have got a good manager now, which might improve them quite a lot. They don't have Champions League. They're effectively in the situation we've got, but they're getting like last year, but they got their deals done a bit quicker. And I think in terms of like De Zerbi, he's gonna do better than Amarin did. I think at the start of the season. And Don says success doesn't depend on how much you spend. And say the Scouts have spent 500 million and scraped into the Champions League. No, I don't think you need to spend. Like you don't need to buy the most expensive player. The thing is, Man United do need to get some deals, and I think the worry I've got is that if we do deals in say we do deals at the start of August rather than the start of July, I just think every deal is going to cost a little bit more. So United will probably be spending like an extra £10 million per midfielder, possibly. Youngsters are going to judge. You're more patient than I am, Yoli, I think. So you're going to judge when the transfer window is over and we're in the start of it. The concern I've got is Man United are going to have the same situation last year where the signings we make are going to be so late in the window that we won't really have a proper pre-season, and effectively the first kind of 4 or 5 games of the season are maybe compromised. And I think that okay, people can say it's fine. If we get the right deals. The problem is if you throw away a few points at the start of the season, it's going to be annoying, isn't it? Do you remember last season we looked at Lamans when he came in and thought if Lamans came in for the Arsenal game, the first game of the season, I think we get a point out of that game, and I think we get better results for the next few games as well. And it could have made a difference, couldn't it? And it could have made a difference to a lot of things. Also, Benjamin Sesko, Cunha, these players weren't like have ready for the season. So let me go through a few of the comments. Don't forget to vote as well. Like there's a few different options, and we're going to at the moment. I don't know if anyone's got a favourite option as well. JDC says truth now is the transfer window is too many or disaster. The problem is just Google like Real Madrid's tax status. They get preferential status. Man United would have to pay about 500k a week for too many to take home the same amount. Also, too many is probably going to be £100 million signing. Too many wants to stay at Real Madrid. Real Madrid want too many to stay. I just don't see how. But if Man United get too many, it feels a bit like me just like winning the lottery. Like, I just don't see how it happens. It's such a small chance. I can't. Just a quick question: does anybody think Man United are going to get too many? Like, it just feels unrealistic. I just can't see a scenario where I'm keep expecting to read like too many. So that is a Goldbridge statement right there. Um, his bosses say not for sale, not happening. It's just like when you have a situation where too many doesn't want to leave, it seems, and Real Madrid don't want him to leave. Mourinho doesn't want him to leave. Look at France in the World Cup. If you've got a world class player in your team, why do you replace him? There's literally it does not make any sense whatsoever on any level. He's too expensive. Man United don't want to pay that much. He's at an age where Man United would be looking to sign a younger player anyway. And why would too many join Man United from Real Madrid? Like, I give it like a 1% chance, but I'm being generous there. And I think I said 2% or 3% chance. But no, when someone like told me about the tax status of Real Madrid, I was like, oh wow, okay. So they Real Madrid players don't get taxed that much. It's definitely got to be something that Spain are looking at to try and shift the balance of power towards Real Madrid because it doesn't benefit any other club. Danny says we're not paying 300k a week to too many. I think it'd have to be even more than that, though, Danny. Kate says that no, I think it's everything, isn't it? PR nonsense says Bilal. Yeah, it's just not going to happen, is it? Bo said it'll pop out of nowhere. Too many to City or somewhere. I don't know. I think given like City have to, City are paying huge salaries on a lot of players. I'm not. Can City afford too many salaries? Well, they have to play by the rules a little bit, don't they? And I don't know. I can't see Real Madrid. I can't see Real Madrid letting one of the best players in the world go to Man City because Man City will be a serious threat in Europe as well if they improve. So yeah, I don't think so. I don't think so. Frankie Jong, yeah, but Frankie Jong didn't cost as much money, did he? But no. Sanya says, I don't believe that we can get too many because Mourinho likes the player and he's the manager. Mourinho loves that sort of player, doesn't he? But I just can't, like, Mourinho loves a player in his prime. and he's going to build around Tchouaméni for sure. Tchouaméni and Mbappe, these players, and Vinicius Junior. But these players are not going to be leaving Real Madrid, are they? So Real Madrid have got a world class team. I think Mourinho is going to have a lot of success at Real Madrid. He's a kind of manager that does want these sort of players. That's why I thought Matheus Fernandes is kind of not sort of the sort of player Mourinho wants. By the time Matheus Fernandes hits his prime, Mourinho's probably won a few trophies and been sacked. So it doesn't make any sense in the time frame. Yeah, good point, Gaz. Good point. If you see any channels saying this, saying that, why would if you see someone trying to hype up the too many train and say too many, there's a chance. No, there isn't, because if we're only going to be going for players that want him, yeah. United today said it's time to make a GoFundMe and we'll all chip in and buy United. The Glazers are not going to sell, are they? JDC says 85 in 2000. Do you know what? Also, I saw something this morning. This might actually be a Goldbridge quote as well, but don't quote me on it if it's not. Because I saw quite a few different shorts this morning. And what I saw was, I think it was Man United's most expensive signing ever is Paul Pogba. And I think that was about £89 million, something like that. So we're talking about what, 100 million euros or something. I can't remember the exact price Pogba cost in the end because it kept being reported in different currencies. But the Paul Pogba deal, Man United's most expensive transfer, and that was what, 10 years ago. So since that, we've seen that the amount we spent on Pogba beaten by Grealish, Caicedo, Declan Rice, Verts, Isak. I think Ekitike is probably the same sort of money with add-ons. And we've seen multiple clubs now all spend more money on players than Man United. So Man United haven't been like close to the kind of top spending in terms of like top players for quite a while. And I'm not saying that we should definitely have to do that, but you have to sometimes you have to spend this one as well. If you think Man United are what's the word? If you think Man United are say being a bit more conservative, then but 85 million or say 90 million pounds for Pogba now to pay for the same sort of level of player, it's probably going to be like 120. We're talking like a decade ago now, so it's just going to cost a lot more money. So, so I think yeah, so it was about 89 million pounds for Pogba. So if you go with inflation as well, I'm not saying Man United need to spend that, but I'm saying in terms of this one, it's crazy, isn't it? Like football inflation is different to other inflation as well. So football inflation. But I think what you could look at is the expansion of the Champions League, the extra money coming in. It's just that this is why players are costing more. So I'm not saying Man United should be throwing money at it, but what I'm saying is that you have to appreciate that players that cost 85 million. When people say there's no value in the market, you just have to buy the players you want because I don't think you're going to get a cheaper deal. So let me go for a few of the comments. And if you haven't voted, please vote because this is one where so yeah, apparently Jim Ratcliffe's losing a lot of money on his own business, and I'm not sure what I'm not sure what his plan is regarding trying to transform Manchester United at the moment. Like lowering the wage bill is one thing, but you've got to then replace those players with better quality players, aren't you? Aren't you? And so if the players can't deliver in 2 years, then the same should apply to the football hierarchy. Well, I suppose with this one, like, have how long have Ineos been in charge, and have Ineos delivered? I would say that given what's happening at the moment, and just to quote Yarley in the chat about 5 to 10 minutes ago, is that maybe we should be looking at a very serious conversation at the end of the window about whether this window has been a success. When this transfer window started, the priority of the club was pretty transparent. I think most people, like myself, everybody watching today, and everyone in the comments, everybody had the same thoughts. Manchester United need to sign at least three midfielders. We need to look at left back. We need to look at some attacking options. Centre back cover looks like something we should be looking at as well. We're not talking about spending £500 million. We're talking about buying three midfielders, a left back, maybe a centre back, maybe a backup forward player. So we're talking about six signings possibly. And I think a lot of people would have been happy with Van Hecke or Senesi. I mean, these are options that were not massively expensive. I mean, some options are on a free as well. And we could look at that and go, okay, maybe we can spend quite big on a left back. Maybe we can spend quite big on one midfielder. We can get a couple of other cost-effective signings. Maybe spend 250 to 300, but you get some sales in as well. So we're not asking for something that is beyond the comprehension of like a one of the more successful and more high turnover Premier League clubs. We're just talking about doing a transfer window that is probably in line with Spurs what they're doing now. So Spurs have spent quite big money on two midfielders. They've got a couple of defensive options in already, and this is just kind of the sort of window we were hoping Man United would do. So Spurs have got most of their deals done already. They've got six players in. Where the 2nd of July, and all we're saying is that for Man United, that we could have got if you replace Tonali with Sangare and you replace, say, Matheus Fernandes with Baleba or Gume, we're just talking about the same thing, aren't we? The deals are there. These deals could be done in this sort of time frame. You don't have to spend as much as Spurs, but the deals are there. But Man United don't seem to be doing them. But I would say we can have a serious conversation when the window is closed because at the moment, lots of things can change. Like people could be maybe we'll be pleasantly surprised. I'm just at the moment I'm just not seeing it. That's what I'm saying because I've been a Man United fan for so long. I'm just I don't know, I'm a bit skeptical as well. Can you imagine if the NHS was run like United? So we could have given you a heart transplant, but unfortunately, it's a bit too expensive. So we're going to replace heart transplants with a leaflet, and off you go home, and see how long you last. Now, Mark says we need four midfielders now. Say Mount's unreliable, Agate out. To be honest, actually, if we'd have got three midfielders, I'd have been happy with that. Three midfielders. I think if you got Cody Mainu, you've got just say for example, you got Baradi, you got Cody Mainu, you got Alex Scott, and you got Baleba. Or you can replace any of those for a Gume, and you can just get four midfield players in, and so you got Mainu there already. You got four options there. Potentially, players coming from the academy can be like your fifth or sixth. So, what I'm saying there, you got a little bit of leeway, but you got four first team players that you can rotate with, and then you've got the academy players as a backup option. And potentially, you know, they're not going to get loads of minutes, but maybe they'll be on the periphery of like League Cup games or something like that. So, but say lack of ambition. So then T saying, look at Ineos and Nice, Glazers and the loans. Yeah, I don't want to look at how did Nice do? I think Nice were not doing well, were they? So yeah, somebody said actually that the land we bought does have some fracking rights, so I'm not saying that that's the reason, but no, it's getting a bit disappointing, isn't it? Pulp says, forget the numbers. Exactly. What I'm saying is, forget the transfer fee cost of the deal Spurs are doing. Spurs have done what we should be doing. Like we should have been backing our manager by bringing in the right players at the right time ready for pre-season because it just makes a lot of sense. Like you get these players in for pre-season, and again, all the players they're talking about, they were available for pre-season, weren't they? Tonali was not at the World Cup. We have Matheus Fernandes not at the World Cup, and you got Van Hecke and Senesi, and so the Spurs have done what we should have done. It's a bit annoying. So let me go back to um, I'll have to stop reading certain comments, just making me a bit annoyed. Serious question from Stephanie says, does Joel Glazer still sign off on the transfer deals or has that fallen into the realm of so you're already going for Ineptio, so you already so yeah, I'll have to look at that in your sour emoji. Um, to be honest, I think most people think that do you remember when we saw an issue with Ruben Amorim last year? And then we did see that the Glazers are kind of hands off with the decisions, but they will still. I'm sure they're still going to be controlling financial some decisions as well. So it might be that Jim Radcliffe likes to maybe like to pretend he's in charge, but he is a minority shareholder. So I think as long as things go in the right direction, then maybe the Glazers will remain a bit hands off. But I'm guessing with this one, I don't know. In answer to your question, Stephanie, I don't know for sure. But I'd be very surprised if the Glazers don't have a significant say in terms of how things are going. I'd imagine with like Ineos that when they started making cuts, I'm sure the Glazers were pretty happy with the cuts. It meant that Jim Radcliffe bore the brunt of the criticism. And I think the wage bill coming down and Man United managed them to get third. I think that will all be good for profitability to the club. So Glazers would be happy. But I think one thing that's different is that the Glazers were generally quite happy to pay quite big salaries. And if you think about it, the Glazers, we know they own Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and Tampa Bay spent incredible money on getting Tom Brady to the club. They paid him a phenomenal salary, like was it like 50 million a year for a couple of years, and they won a Super Bowl. So we've seen that when it comes to like doing what it takes to win something, they've done it with Tampa Bay, and they seem to be in kind of like they did seem to spend quite big before Ineos came in. Since Ineos came in, we've seen nothing but frugality being pushed and like talking about the wage bill way too much than we should be. So United's tactic is like having a grand to buy a car and only looking in the Ferrari showroom. Thing is though, I lived in Loughborough for a year, and I don't know if anyone knows Loughborough. It's like quite close to Leicester. It's actually quite a nice place to live. And I was there doing like a placement year, and I used to walk from the train station. I walked past the Ferrari dealership. Okay, and I'm a student at the time. You walk past the Ferrari dealership, you know you can't afford it. I never went into it, but you just know you cannot afford the cars. And I think with Man United, it feels like we know we can't afford. And well, the thing is though, it feels like we can afford Anderson. So it feels a bit like it's like me walking past the Ferrari dealership. I've got 100K, and I could go in and buy one. I don't know how much they cost now, but they're about 90K when I lived there. And you could go and buy one, but you walk in and go, oh, I don't think I can afford it. But United have got the money to spend on these players. They're just choosing not to. And if they're going to do, the thing is though, if they were going to do a cheap deal, and we can all list players that are going to be significantly cheaper, why don't we just do a deal now? Like, why don't we just get Sangari, Buardi, and Sanderberg? If we're going to sign these players, just sign them now, and then at least you got them for pre-season. So at least Michael Carrick's got time to work with them, and the other coaches have got time to prepare for the start of the season. Because the start of the season, I think we've got Hull City first game. Like Hull have just been promoted, they're going to be just trying to get some points. It's going to be Man United versus the low block, isn't it? And why don't we just have these players in so we can be ready and prepared for that match? Because getting 3 points for the first couple of games is just going to be important. It's going to get Man United off to the right track. It's going to help with the new signings coming in to settle and get some positivity around the team. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. If Man United feel they can get Anderson, or I think at this point in time, Manchester United must realise that the transfers are not going to be as cheap as they thought. It's going to be a very big concern if Man United have to readjust their strategy now. If we genuinely thought we could get Alex Scott for £50 million, Matheus Fernandes for £60 million, and Elliot Anderson for £80 million, if we genuinely thought that, and that was our only strategy, then there's a big problem. Well, I'm not saying someone asked. I think it's Bilal said, "When was the last time I panicked?" I don't tend to panic. Like, I don't tend to panic. I tend to get more angry than panicked. But if the strategy was that, and then it hasn't worked out, and Man United are now going right, let's have a crisis meeting. What are we going to do now? We're going to have to spend the same sort of money, but instead of getting those three targets, we're going to pay the same amount of money and go for Baleba, Alex Scott, or Baleba, Sangare, or maybe Sanderberg, but we're going to have to go for those options, and they're going to cost probably the same as we thought we were going to pay for better players. So that's probably the where the market's gone. And I think United have just maybe they just thought they could get better deals. Like maybe we got lucky with the Cunha and Bremo deal as well. I might have said I better start panicking. I thought you said I almost read that as packing. Then, yeah, yeah, no. And Davies says Vell has absolutely no say. He just suggests the players. I think with this one, then apparently you've got Jim. Who have you got? You've got Barada, you've got Ravel, you've got Wilcox, and you've got the scouts, the data team, etc. But apparently Wilcox has final say. If anyone else has seen anything different, please let me know. But I'm sure that Wilcox gets final say over transfers. Everybody else can. I think they tend to want to get agreement. They tend to want to get like a unanimous type decision. But I think it does come down to Wilcox having the final say on that. So again, I've seen this on a couple of places. I can't remember where it was I last read it, but it seems to be that's what's thought. Yeah, no, I think it could be right there. To be honest, at the moment, information. I'm sure more information will come out, and we can talk about things. But in terms of like looking at the list on the screen, I did say too many is very pretty much unlikely. The other options are all going to be quite expensive now. I think Nemec is actually going to be. I think potentially he's like 100 million euros, or at least 80 to 100 million euros. I've seen prices. Wharton's going to be probably. I think Wharton might be Tonali money. Alex Scott is going to be very similar to Matheus Fernandes money. I'd be surprised if Belieber is not similar to Matheus Fernandes money. The difference between Belieber and the Fernandes deal might be that Belieber's not had a great season. Brighton will have their targets lined up, ready to replace him. You could potentially get a deal similar sort of price, but I'd imagine Belieber would fit nicely into Man United's wage structure. But I cannot see a situation where Man United would have to pay Belieber any more than someone like Mainu. So I think that the rumoured salary that Belieber's on is quite low. So in terms of salary wise, that would not be too much. So yeah, to us, okay, I don't care what the strategy is. I just want it to be executed. Like if Man United have got like a list of targets, if Man United wanted to get Belieber, just get Belieber straight away. It doesn't make any sense to. Yeah, so Belieber will be 80 million, says Niche. Yeah, it could be. It could be. Um, Andy says, "Here we go again." Andy? You seem to be quite calm actually. You got this one. Scott says the Rashford nonsense still shows players run the show at United, and to I think Marcus Rashford might be maybe Marcus Rashford and Mason Mount might be the last really bad contracts Man United handed out, and yeah, that's probably why. So at the moment, like I think Marcus Rashford would lower his salary a little bit, but there's no other clubs in for him at the moment, so I don't know what the reason is for this one. But it seems strange if Gordon can cost a 70 million pounds, how can Rashford not go for like 20 or 25? Marks, yeah, you ask it and see. Like, yeah, just type it in and see see what you want. Cheeky bid for Palmer. Uh, Cole Palmer's going to cost even more, isn't he? Um, Sangari is still out there from Lons. Yeah, he is. He is. Um, do I think United's approach is to exhaust fans so that in the end they're just grateful for any mid-tier signings? Um, good question. If it is a strategy, it's not going to work on me because I expect Man United to sign good players. Like, there's no reason why Manchester City, Arsenal, Spurs, like if Spurs can sign good players, it's a bit ridiculous as well. So no, I think that to be honest, I think Manchester United's approach is to try and do what we did last year, but this is not 2025. So 2026 prices have shot up. Do you remember when we talked about Ekatike and I said Ekatike is going to be about 100 million euros, and people said, "Don't be ridiculous, Rich. There's no way he's going to cost that amount of money." And then we covered, I can't remember who it was now. We looked at other people, other strikers, and I said that these players are just costing more than people realise. Like Diamonde, one good season, 100 million euros, and the problem is it's not just Premier League signings. So we're talking about Florian Wirtz. crazy money. And some of the players coming in from other leagues as well are crazy money. If you look at Buwadi, he might be 100 million euros. So it's 100 million euros has become the new like 60 million pounds, isn't it? It's ridiculous. So I don't know. I think there's AI said no one. Maybe Man United are using AI to predict who they should sign next, then, and maybe that's the problem. Maybe they just need to get another generation of AI. But it does get the feeling maybe Man United. I get sometimes that I get the feeling that Man United just look at the YouTube algorithm and see what a fan channel's talking about, who do they want, which players they looking for. So at the moment, if I had to pick one player on this list, then obviously I'm picking too many to start with, and then beyond that, to be honest, I think if you're going to play alongside Menu, maybe Alex Scott, but I think Alex Scott is probably going to be someone that you're not going to get the best out of him for a year or two. Wharton, I do quite like. I'm not sure if a Wharton Manu midfield is going to be fantastic in terms of like the speed. So I'd probably be. I don't know. To be honest, this feels a bit like a backup list, doesn't it? It doesn't feel like the top list we're looking at as well. Do you know what I can see? I would not be surprised if that happens either, Yarli. Can you imagine, like, Rashford versus Luke Shaw, Rashford versus Dallo? These are not good scenarios. So I know that Rashford's going to be leaving Man United. He's not going to be a Man United player, but I can just see if you're putting Tonali, Matheus Fernandes, and Rashford into Spurs' team, they're going to do a lot better than they did last season, and it's going to be a little bit disappointing. So let me close the poll and then see what people are thinking. Because I thought I just have a poll where you go, right, what's the most likely signing? And if you think there's a more likely signing as well, just get them in the chat. So what I'll do, I'll close the poll, but we'll keep the conversation going. So let me know who you think is the next signing. Because at the moment, based on the shortlist, I'm just starting to realise that I put too many into the poll, and I don't know why I did, because too many feels like very unrealistic. But we can see what percentage of people think too many does have a chance. So at the moment, most likely signing Wharton at only 14%, Alex Scott got 22%. So I'm kind of actually, I do think it's right that Belieber will be the most likely one, mainly because it's a combination of lack of other teams. And Belieber's the one person on this list actually that's come out and said he wants Manchester United. So again, that's probably one reason. Too many, 23% though, that's really high. I think considering that I hope there's some of the channels that are pushing too many to Manchester United, saying it's got a chance, saying it's got some traction, then I would just take it with like a pinch of salt. I don't think there's any indication that too many wants Man United. I think there's a lot of indication that Belieber would definitely jump at the chance of joining Manchester United, and maybe it would work a bit better than people are expecting. And so Pulp76 says, I thought Edison was supposed to be a cheaper alternative to Belieber. If you look at it in terms of this one, for Man United's transfer strategy, what I would say is if you look at Edison and look at what he's good at, Edison for me is like a cheaper version of Elliot Anderson. Like Edison, very physical. He moves around the pitch a lot. He's good on the ball, got a good range of passing. He's defensively strong, good in duels, physical presence. He wins the ball back a lot. If you watched England against Congo last night, some of the things that Anderson's quite good at, and it wasn't a great performance by England, but there was a couple of times where Anderson wins the ball back high up the pitch. He nibbles at people all the time. He doesn't give them any time to settle and does win the ball back a significant amount of time. He's always in and around on the defensive side of his game. And I think with Edison, you would get something similar as well. So I think Edison's a different sort of player to Belieber. He's more of a box-to-box player. He's got a good range of passing, maybe not so much as a ball progressor as Belieber was a year ago. But I think Edison is for me. If you kind of did like a chart of what he's good at, it would kind of overlay quite nicely with Elliot Anderson. but it's obviously a few years older than Anderson. He's playing in a different league, but he's kind of similar. What he's doing, it just isn't going to be reaching the levels that Anderson does. So he's a cheaper option, but not as good. And I think with Belieber, I don't know. With Belieber, it's a different sort of player. That he's been very good defensively, very good on in his duels. He just hasn't had the best season at Brighton. I mean, it's. I think there's definitely potential with Belieber, but you would be buying him hoping that he can recapture the form from about 12 months ago. So if we had this conversation a year ago, Belieber would be jumping off this list as like one of the best options. But he had quite a decent, disappointing season. But and I think for me, I think Edison was always going to be. I think Man United's plan was going to be get Eddie Anderson. Edison would be the backup because he's very similar, but obviously not as good. And I think you'd have Kobe Mainu, and then maybe like Matis Fernandez would be like a backup to Mainu, possibly. I think that might have been Man United's kind of preferred strategy, but obviously that's kind of completely fallen apart now, isn't it? Do I not think an Anderson midfield consistently gets run through? I suppose it's difficult because he's played for Forest that were not a great team. I think we did see Man United, we really cut through Forest with ease when we were playing against them towards the end of the season. Like we did play very well against Forest. But Anderson, like again, if you put Anderson with better players in a better team, I think you're going to see improved performance. He does win the ball back a lot, so I think in terms of getting run through, he is defensively pretty good. And some people have seen Anderson live against Man United, a couple of season ticket holders I know, they said Anderson, depending on what's required, I think with City, he's maybe positionally not as disciplined because he kind of does a lot of things and lots of things go through him. So I think if you put him in a more disciplined role, he is actually very good defensively and would be very good at screening the back four. But I think at Nottingham Forest, he probably compromises a bit on probably discipline to try and get more things done. But I think it does, like Forest were a bit of a dysfunctional team for a lot of last season. But no, again, I think some of the things like tactical discipline was something that we will improve on. Scott says the club mentioned Belieber first, not one channel had mentioned him. I think was it Graham Bailey last season was like one of the first journalists to talk about him, and then I think Indy Carlo got on board quite quickly. But no, I think with this one that no, he's been mentioned, but he's just very much not quite so much. And Pop said, love Belieber in his previous season. Bursting through midfield would create carnage, plus can get back to defend the counters, which is absolutely what we need. Passing underrated too. I think there's a few things that happened with Belieber, like a lot of things that maybe meant that people were not so keen. And I think Belieber was playing alongside different midfielders, carrying a bit of an injury, having his minutes managed as well. So I think there's a lot of factors where Belieber didn't have such a great season. If Man United buy him, I think there's definitely a chance we see improvements regarding this one. And Wizardbet said they tried to turn Belieber into a hybrid 6/8 last season. I don't think it worked. I don't think that Brighton got the balance right. Also, there's a few things, isn't there? I think the injury issue he had didn't help him. But maybe in one kind of positive bit of spin, maybe that pushes the price down a little bit. So maybe that's a good thing as well. Can't be player manager. I don't know. I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think he's got the legs. He might have the same legs as Casemiro, but I don't think it's going to be an effective signing. Pop says Anderson looked poor for England, yet data tells a different story. No, I think with Anderson, it's like he'll give the ball away. As an example, I can't remember who he was against, but last night Anderson won the ball back and then overpassed on. I can't remember who was on the overlap, but then he made a bad decision. There are better options on. So I think with this one, that Anderson's not the finished article, but he is good at a lot of things. I think sometimes you question it in the kind of like that sort of thing. I think the difference between Anderson and Mainu, I think, is in that advanced position. When Anderson won the ball back, I think he panicked a little bit and overplayed the pass and was a bit rash. I think somebody like Mainu, not as quick as Anderson, probably doesn't win the ball back as much, but in that situation, I think Mainu is more composed. So I think Anderson's definitely got a skill set. I think Mainu is a bit underrated in terms of he's got the composure. So I think if you think someone like Modric, unflustered, makes the right decisions generally, I think with this one that I think Anderson would work quite well alongside Mainu. So I think Mainu's got the composure, and I think Mainu's got a different skill set to Anderson. But yeah, yeah. I'm just saying. I think he was the one that broke the story last. Yeah, but I'm not gonna not gonna say he's a. I think a lot of journalists are what's the word? A bit sketchy. Um, so Edison is a poor man's Anderson, and Believe is a poor man's Too Many, and Wharton is a baller, says Andy. I think this one. Well, what I'll say about this one regarding Belieber's quite young, so I would just see how he develops. I think like, there's going to be if Man United sign Belieber, there's probably going to be a bit of negativity, but I would be open minded and see how it goes. I think with the Edison and Anderson though, I think that's probably fair. He's like a cheaper version of Anderson, but I think he's probably a good signing for Man United. Well, I think he'll be decent. So does United Strand? I don't know. United Strand just moved like 99% hair now. No, that's cool. That's cool. I would say like most journalists are. I think unfortunately journalism has gone from like talking about facts to just trying to get attention now. It's a little bit annoying. So Scott as a team we mount, that's a bit harsh, isn't it? I think some of these players that are quite young. I would just say like Alex Scott, Matheus Fernandes, Baleba, etc. I think these players are so young that they're going to have good and bad seasons. But I think I think I think it's a bit harsh sometimes. Like they have a few good games, people are very critical. They have a couple of good games, and suddenly they're £100 million. So let's say what two losses out of 89 in that stadium. Yeah, what 1 a.m. kickoff on is it Sunday night or Monday morning 1 a.m. I'm looking forward to that game. I love the Azteca Stadium. It's going to be a massive test for Man United. It's going to be a big test for England. I would say Koe Manu, he's got to get some minutes. England haven't looked very controlled in many matches. I don't know why Tuchel doesn't give him like some minutes. But if anyone's got like a final question, big up to you, Bilal, for the super chat. Really appreciate that. If anybody's new to the channel, please consider subscribing if you enjoy this content. If this content's not for you, then that's absolutely fine. We're just trying to, I'm just trying to have like a snapshot conversation of what's in the news, what's trending. My opinion at the moment is probably Man United will have some targets in mind. There's got to be some realistic ones. They should probably go for them and at least get another signing done. If we're still going to be faffing about the midfield, at least look at left back, look at centre back options if there's credible options as well. Give Michael Carrick what he needs. At the moment, I'm still not convinced we've got enough centre backs considering De Ligt's out and the injury issues of the other players, but we'll have to see if anything happens. I'm not sure there's going to be watch alongs tonight. Well, big up, Jeff. I'm about to wrap up in a couple of minutes, Jeff. If you've got any like questions, we did do a poll, and I'm kind of surprised by the optimism towards Too Many. That 20% of people, 23% of people think that Too Many is the likely signing. I just can't see it. I just can't see a Too Many move to Man United. I'd love it if there was if there was some positivity regarding Too Many. I would be all over it because I do love a positive. No, I do love a positive story, and I do like talking up potentially good things that could happen. I just can't, like, with all honesty, I can't do a stream and say like Too Many's coming because I don't believe it to be true. So I'm probably at the moment like Nemeka. I don't think it's gonna has got any legs either. I don't think Wharton is like likely either. I honestly think Man United might be looking at Alex Scott. but I think Alex Scott would probably. I don't think £80 million is going to be a price Man United are prepared to pay. I get the feeling that we're probably going to see something regarding Baleba, and maybe we're going to see potentially a surprise that we haven't thought about. But so the positive is that heat wave is on. Yeah, exactly. Uski says, what does Carrick need? Because the signing of Fernandez and Tonali and De Zerbi was involved. The problem might be is that Man United will do transfers differently to Spurs, won't they? So I don't know. Does anybody think that there's going to be potentially an issue with like Carrick being manager? Is that going to be an issue? Because I did see a few people say that. I can't remember who it was now, but I've seen some people say that is the problem that Michael Carrick people don't know. Because I look at it and say, if you look at Man United last season from January through to the summer, Manchester United were, I would say, one of the highest scoring teams. We're playing attacking, aggressive football. So I think with Man United there's a lot of positives to play for United, but we have to be realistic that a lot of players will go for. So they want money, don't they? So it's going to cost quite a lot as well. I think the manager that's in charge is not such a big factor. Like so, because if you look at modern football, I think Tonali signed a 6 year contract, or is going to sign like a 5+1 contract. Probably Matheus Fernandes will sign a 5 or 6 year contract. So if you consider Spurs, Manchester United, I'm trying to think who else, as like teams like Chelsea, for example, lots of these players signing for these clubs I don't think it should make any difference who the manager is because most of those clubs are sacking their manager every single season. Like Chelsea have sacked a manager every single year for about 20 years. They average about a manager a year. Spurs went through three managers last season. There's no doubt that if Spurs have a bad season or aren't doing well, De Zerbi will get sacked. And the same with like Chelsea, and the same with Michael Carrick that if Man United have a bad season, Michael Carrick will get sacked. So I don't think it makes any difference who the manager is there because the players' contracts are longer than a manager contract will see out. So I don't think there's going to be a problem with this one. I think the problem is going to be uh, that they just at the moment that most people, if you're going to go for a different, put it this way, if you're going to go for a job in any industry and effectively you do the same job, but one company is going to pay you, I don't know, 25% more. So if you're going to go for, say you go for a job and I don't know how much the salary would be, but if you went for a job at one particular place, say you're working for a shop and then the shop next door offers you 25% more, most people are going to take it. Most of these players, Alex Scott, Baleba, Wharton, they probably didn't grow up supporting Man United or Liverpool because the last time Man United won significant trophies, these players are probably be about 8 or 9. So I don't think these players would grow up supporting Man United. So to assume they're going to be preferential treatment towards Man United, I think is unrealistic as well. Be it to you, Clive, in the chat. Yeah, I think most people are well. So we want to. Do you know what I think? Signing for Man United is like a prison, isn't it? Like you sign for Man United, and then just when you think your contract's going to expire, Man United will make you an offer you can't refuse. We're like the mafia, aren't we? Like we go right just when Luke Shaw thought it was safe, just when he thought his contract was going to run down and he could leave Man United, we'll offer him a contract. Maguire, he thought he was leaving as well. Here's a new contract. It's just ridiculous, isn't it? I mean, probably, if you look at it as well, we're paying these players that are mediocre quite a lot of money. How many games will Maguire play next season? And how much money will we pay him? How many games did Lindelof play? And we're happy to spend like 170k a week on Lindelof, and we're happy to throw extra money at Maguire. Why are we not happy to buy younger players? It doesn't make any sense. I don't know. I don't know. Luke's short extension. I'm trying to think of something that's worse. The only thing that's worse is if Man United had extended the contract of that player that's just left, which I don't want to mention because it just triggers too many people. But no, Shaw contract extension is no, no, real, no. Don't even joke about it because this is Man United. You never know. Big up Mr. B. Yeah. So I think Luke Shaw's just waiting for the day when he doesn't need to be match fit, isn't he? Can you imagine Enrique here? I don't think Luis Enrique moves to a club like Manchester United until Manchester United has the players in place because there is no way you'd be thinking of that. Hey, no worries, Jeff. I started off pretty optimistic and then I probably read too many comments and then got worn down. But I'm actually in quite a good mood today. Yeah, don't say that, Cake, because Ryan's still in the chat, I believe. And yeah, I hope you're wrong, Danny. Hope you're wrong. Um, is there anybody? Just a quick question: is there anybody on this list that, apart from too many, for example, is there anyone on this list like Wharton, Alex Scott, Baleba, Nemeka? Is there a signing on here you think would be perfect for Man United? Because at the moment, I'm kind of a bit in limbo about this one. What's Jim Man versus food? Um, so why are we wasting our time on players we won't sign like Scott too many Nemec? I don't know. I don't know. I'm hoping what I'm kind of secretly hoping is that at some point what we see is maybe Manchester United or Ravel. If we start seeing a short list that includes up and coming players that are non-Premier League, you could get Bawadi, you could put Sangari, you could get Angela Stiller, you could get a Gume and go, right, here's four players. They don't play in the Premier League. Are these going to be better options financially for Man United? Are they going to be more realistic options as well? I think Bawadi for me is probably the top of the list in terms of players I'd want to see signed. I just don't think Man United are going to be prepared to spend that sort of money. But if you consider how good he is at age 18, it's getting close to a no-brainer. But no, I think Sangari offers a lot as well for a cheaper price. I think these are sensible options, aren't they? And these would be good options. The only issue I've got is that someone like do you remember how Brighton, no, Chelsea bought Quenda, didn't they? Chelsea bought Quenda, loaned him back. So I'm guessing Quenda might be a Chelsea player quite soon. And then, but City could buy him, loan him back to Lille, and that might be a cheaper price. Man United can't really do that. I don't think we can spend 80 million euros on a player we don't get for a year. But City do have that luxury, I think. So I don't know. It's a frustrating one, isn't it? So it's going to be the Fletcher brothers next season. And you're saying Sangari is not good enough. And I think Man United favour getting Premier League players overall, but we got Edison. So, I mean, what Man United say and what Man United do may not be exactly the same thing. So, United Dice says, why do I feel like JJ Gabriel will be used a lot next season? JJ Gabriel will get some games because Manchester United will have to incentivise him to stay at the club. So he will get some games, but I don't know how much he's going to get, how well is he going to do as well. No, I think it's going to be a difficult balancing act as well. How much did Hackney go? Hackney went for 16 plus add-ons. Is that true? If that's true, that is a very cheap deal. He was the player that wasn't he the voted player of the championship last season. If he goes for 16 million, then Everton have got a really good deal there. So 25 million deal. To be honest, that's actually embarrassingly cheap, isn't it? I don't know. Yeah, I think this one, I think Sangare would be good rotation. I think Maine's going to be a starter. I think for Manchester United, you need to get you need to get another starter alongside Mainu. And then for me, Sangare, Buwadi, you've got options there again for rotation and maybe a backup. But no, I think Hayden Hackney for me, Hayden Hackney would have been like a good like fourth midfielder. Like you got your main rotation and he's there as well. But no, this is a bit of a concern because that, like I said, the shortlist. Do you remember when I used to joke? I used to say our shortlist isn't short. We got all these different players. We used to be able to reel off like about 50 midfielders we're linked to. The problem is they're kind of going down quite quickly, aren't they? We've seen in the last couple of weeks, we've seen Anderson go, we've seen Tonali, we've seen Mathis Fernandez, we're now seeing Hayden Hackney, and we're seeing like links with other teams to Buwadi. So we're kind of seeing like these players disappear quite quickly. And this point, the thing I've got as a concern is it's not about the quality of the players left because there's still some very good players left. The issue is those players will go up in value, so Man United might not sign the ones we want them to sign because they become too expensive. But also, it does mean that it's becoming like less likely that we're going to have enough money to spend on a decent left back as well. So it's a bit annoying. I mean, there's a few comments I was going to read out, but they have a slightly too much swearing in. And I'm not offended by swearing, but just to kind of keep things cordial in the chat. Yeah, I know, Cake. I know that there's not much we can do about the owners, is there? Sangaro is going to Palace. So Danny, Cake says Hack can be worth 80 million in 2 years' time. That's probably when we buy him, though. Cake, we probably buy Hackney at that price point as well. Big up to you, Kazi. So, last couple of minutes, if anyone's got like any thoughts, if you want to add any thoughts to the conversation, Kazi. Um, no, JJ Gabriel probably physically isn't ready, but Man United will probably give him games because they're worried about Barcelona poaching him as well. Greenwood maybe stall, which kind of like gives us that would be something that gives us a little bit of money, to be honest. But yeah, no, it's a bit annoying, isn't it? What I'll do is I think tomorrow. But I think at the moment there's probably going to be 1 p.m. streams most days, except when I'm out, which might be on the weekend. But no, we'll try and like keep you up to date regarding things that happen as well. Yeah, hopefully we do sign some players, Kazi, because at the moment it feels like we're going to do a stream next week where Everton still have got Tyler Dibbling, but he's had a very poor season apparently. Ian says the dynamics of United has changed drastically since Fergie left. We used to get the best players in the Premier League, didn't we? Like, irrespective of where the players originally came from, you go for like Van Persie, Dwight York, Teddy Sheringham. We used to like basically like scout the best players in the league and get those players. It hasn't happened for a long time though. I think the last time Man United got some of the best players, it probably is Fergie. Probably Van Persie's the last time we bought one of the best players from a top team in the Premier League. So, guys, I think I'll wrap it up there. If anyone's got any thoughts or comments, please leave a comment on the channel. I'm not sure if there's going to be an evening stream tonight because I'm going to be going out, so I won't be able to do something at the usual time. But there might be a watch long. I don't know. If there is a watch long, what I'll do is I'll post the information on the channel Discord. I'll just put a quick link to the Discord. If you're not in the Discord, we are a bit of a growing Discord community. There's about 83 people in the Discord at the moment. So if you're on the Discord, then that's where I'm going to update. That's the easiest way of updating things when we're streaming. So we will be there. But then, guys, thank you for watching. Thanks for supporting the channel. And we'll try and grow the channel and try and give you the most accurate information. But at the moment, we have to be realistic and say journalists and certain other channels, there's probably a lot of misleading stuff out there as well. So don't believe everything you read. definitely see what happens. I think what we're seeing now is that when transfer deals happen, Spurs have shown they can happen pretty quickly as well. So if you see loads of stories with Man United linked to players you don't think are a good fit, it's probably just journalistic nonsense as well. But thank you for watching, guys. Appreciate it. And we will catch you in hopefully the next one very soon as well. So cheers, Mr. B. Appreciate that. And cheers, everybody else.